the November 23rd council meeting in terms of our work session, and you've all had the agendas. And do we have any discussion or any questions about the minutes from November 9th, 2021? Ms. Knight?
No questions.
Ms. Dean?
No questions.
Mr. Qua?
No questions, sir.
Okay. And next item is going to be the Old Town Morrow York Bridge. That was a bridge that was built approximately 10 years ago, wooden bridge, over into, at that time, was Old Town Morrow District. Looking at some of the walking areas, there's a couple of boards, that have been broken over the years, and it doesn't appear that we had anyone really do a visual or otherwise inspection on it in any time in the past, or at least not in the recent past. So we reached out to that company and asked them to give us a proposal for a bridge inspection. Jeff, you want to pick it up from there?
Yeah, I can pick it up from there. So York Bridge, I asked them to do, basically a safety compliance inspection on that bridge. One of the reasons that I went with a single source proposal on that is that this is the company that built the bridge. They're still in business. So they have an intimate familiarization with the bridge already. They will bring a team out. Once we authorize it, they would bring a team out and do a full engineering. The only thing they don't themselves necessarily engineer is underwater pieces. Obviously they don't go all the way down there, but they'll be able to tell from the upper pieces if anything needs to be done to the bridge to do that. So all that's included in the documents there. They said, of course, the amount $17,000. They'll give us a full engineering report and say, yes, you're still able to drive vehicles across it, or it needs these components and needs to have these repair pieces done to it. So they give us a full scope of work that would need to be fixed if anything does need to be, or again, a clearance to use the bridge as designed.
Excellent. Any questions, Ms. Knight?
No questions.
Ms. Dean?
I do have a question. I read where it said if there's water, then we have to supply a boat or something like that. So is that still necessary? I know they're going to check the what do you call the pylon?
So underneath there's nothing more than about knee deep. So I would assume that they have some waders. I'll give them some of our fire department boots if they need them. Let them walk out. No, it's not deep, and actually, I have some pictures from underneath it. But most of those pylons that go to the water are fairly close to the bank. Probably mostly accessible, I would think, that they could get to them and do anything that they need to. Again, I'm not a bridge engineer, so I don't know, if they probe or what they do with some of that stuff. But they can certainly, mostly get to those vertical pieces, the poles that they would need to.
So they will be doing the inspection of the pylons as well?
They will inspect the pieces above the water. Okay. They don't go underwater, basically. So, so they don't have people that go down inside there and do those things.
But we have to do that?
I'm sorry?
Will we have to do that, get somebody else to do that?
I would believe that what they'll end up doing is that they'll be able to, from the top, they'll know the structural integrity of the bottom. I mean, if there was any significant damage to anything underneath, they would be able to tell that by if the pylons were leaning or had deteriorated up top, any such as that. So they will give us, at the end of it, they will give us an okay to use it, or you need to do these things to be able to use it.
Okay.
Mr. Qua, any questions?
So you're saying that they can be able to look under the water. So let's say if rotten, how can they be able to? Do we need to do extra work to get the pipe that under the water still okay, or how does that work?
I would believe, I'm not a bridge engineer, obviously, but I would believe that what they'll do is they will do the testing for the stuff up on top to see if they believe there's any damage underneath that enough that would cause us any deteriorated load, anything like that. So you know, when I have not spoken back with them afterwards to ask them the specific questions, in all transparency, to say, you know, is there anything that would need to be done? But I do know that at the end they either give us a stamp and say your bridge is certified to drive across, walk across, all those things, or that it's not because of these issues right here. And if they would provide us those items that needed to be repaired or further inspected by someone else. Now, while they're, and I can, you know, I could get back in touch with them and find out what they would charge for underwater.
Yeah.
I'll say this, that most of ours is not underwater. The majority of it, I think we have two of them total that touch the water. So it may be that they can get to those enough so that they can probe just where they are in the water and get enough information from that, because the definition of underwater may be we're not going to go dive 20 feet underwater, whereas you're talking about basically, you know, less than knee-deep water in most places where anything would be there to make a determination on those.
The documents say this proposal does not include inspection of pilings, abutments, or excavation located underground or underwater. So I think we probably need to ask in advance so we have a comprehensive understanding of what they're actually inspecting.
Okay.
Because it just looks like it's just going out there to visually say it's okay, but if you're not inspecting all of the structural pieces that help us understand better that cars can continue to drive across it, then we need to ask in advance.
Okay.
We do need to ask those because they specifically saying that they will not look under the water. So, you know, what if something happened and they say, we already told you up front that we can't be able to do that. So somebody gotta, I mean, at least we can look for a alternative source that will do the total package that would inspect the total depth of the bridge. So it wouldn't hold the city any liability on, you know, when a car drive through and something happens.
Yeah.
And plus, this is right under 25,000. It wouldn't need to be approved by the council, right? I would think.
That would probably result in a contract for their services. So then that would come in here, you know, according to and again, you saw the emails about the purchasing policy this week, so there's some clarifications that need to be done there. You know, with this, because it's unbudgeted, that's why we'd bring it forth.
So, also, so the city attorney did clear that legally they can provide us the inspection, right?
I'm sorry?
The city attorney did clear with us that she cleared that they come with the type of license they have, or whatever they do, they be able to provide the inspection for us here.
Yes, and and I did. The email literally just came in right before 5 o'clock. So what we did was print it, and you have it in your additional folder. The response. So basically, it talks about an engineer, and they have PEs on their staff. Plus, they have another company that they consult with. So there's also an engineering company that they consult with should they need anything further. And that piece that came from their website discusses that. It's also in that additional folder that we gave you.
Yeah.
All right. No other questions? Hearing none. Pest control, Powerhouse, basically a bid for $1,300, including $350 monthly. There was a number of proposals that were offered, and this is the one that's recommended by staff. Jeff, you want to tell us that?
Kyle did most research on this one, so I'll refer to him.
Yeah, for sure. So we got 5 bids for pest control service. They're outlined in the agenda packet, and Powerhouse Pest Control by far within sort of the realm of what we were paying with our previous contract. And these are all completely same scope of work for just basic pest control service and rodent control service. Any other services would be on a proposal basis, would be one-off. Powerhouse Pest Control is a local company. Well, they're out of Stockbridge, but we've already had to use them a couple times for some one-off kind of emergency services, and they were very responsive, and so that is my recommendation for pest control contract. And
Any questions?
It is
Miss Knight, any questions?
So this is for all city buildings, including the Morrow Center and the Welcome Center?
yes.
That was my question.
Any other questions?
What was your price,
Miss Dean?
Mayor, you quoted? What was the price that you quoted? Mayor?
On this one, I think it was $1,300, and then it was $350 monthly. So one-time fee, $1,300. Whatever bait traps and other things they need, and then $350 a month.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions, Ms. Dean?
I think that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Quat?
No questions?
Police Chief Renan purchased 2 police vehicles. There's some supporting information and data that goes with that, including some potential conflicts in terms of how the code is written. But Chief, you want to start?
Sure. Basically, there are 2 vehicles that have been budgeted. It's vehicles 2 and 3 of the 5 that we were budgeted for this year, and they are exceeding the $25,000 threshold, and so we need the council's approval to have the mayor sign off on it. They're being purchased off of state contract, which is a flat rate that is offered to us by different car makers for specific police vehicles. One being a Ford Explorer, the other one a Ford F-150 pickup truck. And that's it. Any questions you guys have, I'll answer in reference to that.
Ms. Knight, any questions?
No questions.
Ms. Dean, any questions?
Yes, is this, replacing any current vehicles or it's in addition to?
These are in addition to, but they are phasing some out, some of the older vehicles. But I don't have that information in front of me right now in terms of like what vehicles are, but I know that eventually we are going to be rolling some cars out. And we keep some as spares, but these are brand new.
Can you let us know later which ones will be phasing out?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Quat, any questions?
No questions.
All right. Final one, ordinance 2020-10, which we discussed, the last time. They made some final adjustments to that, and that was the amending the fiscal year 2021 budget, second reading. First reading, well, actually, first reading went twice technically, but last reading was the first reading. Any questions with that? I don't know if Chris is available or not. Any questions, Ms. Knight?
Currently, no questions.
Ms.
I
Dean?
do have, I'm sorry.
Councilman Quar has a question. I don't.
Go ahead, Mr. Clark.
Good evening, Chris.
Good evening. How are you?
How are you? So, would you able to give me some detail about the budget that's been amending? Like,
Sure.
where is the fund been moving to, and, yes, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. So most of what this budget entails is just, taking from the left hand and putting in the right hand. We're moving it from one department to another. There was an overall increase in expenses of about almost $600,000 in total, which from a percentage of the overall budget is not terribly a lot, even though that sounds like a lot. All of the additional revenues all the additional expenses that we are budgeting for come from additional revenues that were received during the year. So as you know, when we do the initial budget, let's say April, May timeframe, we definitely don't have a crystal ball to see what the next 16 months are going to look like. So a budget amendment is perfectly normal to do these throughout the year and even after the year for governments. This is making sure that the amounts that we spent stay under budget so we don't get written up on our state audit as a finding for that. So throughout this particular budget, just to give you some examples of moving one item from another, the city's property and casualty insurance was budgeted in the city manager's budget, but we actually coded and expensed it out in the finance budget, which is where insurance would typically go. So we reduced the city manager budget by $360,000. We increased the finance budget by a comparable amount just to offset those two numbers. And so you'll see various items like that. The overall budget increase of that $600,000 I mentioned was mostly due to some additional public works items where we started accelerating some of our projects in FY21, doing some more cleanup and repairs to city properties and facilities. And like I said, we did not have to dip into savings for any of this. We had extra revenues come in above what was budgeted to cover those expenditures.
Okay. So, based on our charter, is it okay for us to move the kind of money like $500,000 or $600,000 to one department to another without getting the council approval? I mean, are we clear on that?
Well, that's what we're doing here. We're seeking council's approval for those purchases that were made during the year, because council approval is required to adjust the budget. So that's what this is doing.
But this already been done. It's different. It's going to happen. I mean, it's already been, spent, and now.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yes. So just to kind of let you know, procedurally, what will happen is a lot of times council will come in, like today with the contract to do the bridge inspection. That's $17,000. It's not currently in Public Works budget to do that, but you're saying let's go ahead and get this inspection done and budget the $17,000. If you add up items like that take place throughout the year, and then you go in after the fact and say, here are several items that we've gone in and authorized to spend money on. Now we're going to clean up the budget and account for the budget to reflect the items that council's approved that weren't initially in the budget. So, it's, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? We technically could not do the bridge inspection right now and amend the budget first. With two budget ordinances and wait a month before we start contracting to do the bridge inspection, or we can go ahead and contract to do the bridge and then clean up the budget afterwards. So, like I say, a budget amendment's perfectly normal in the government world. And yes, ideally, you wouldn't spend something before there's budget for it. But if council's already authorized an expenditure and executed a contract to do so, we typically will go ahead and proceed with that project and then clean up the budget after the fact.
But of course, the current software that we have, we weren't able to go to the detail, whatever kind of spending, above or under $25,000. We can't really specify whichever been approved within that $600,000, and we have nowhere to track those, right?
Yeah, we don't track those individually. It would just be a matter of going through all the council agenda minutes and everything else, all the purchases that were being done, and adding those up one by one. The software does not currently track those.
And again, the question I asked you originally, is it okay, according to our charter, is it okay to move the fund from one department to another? Is it okay according to our charter?
Yes, with council approval, yes, you can do that.
Okay.
And just from a little historical perspective, everywhere I've worked the last 20 years as finance director, we've always done budget amendments after the year end. This is normal process anywhere I've ever gone. It is different than the private sector where a budget's usually done at the beginning of the year and then that's it. In government, because you get written up if you go over budget even by $1, we typically will amend the budget even after year end just to kind of keep that clean.
Thank you, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Dean, any questions?
No questions?
I think Warren had said that he was not going to be there, and that Jeff, he said he gave you some base numbers. You know, just want to tell us what those are.
Yeah, he has the. You should have the P&L in the packet that you gained, or that's in there. It's on the first page of the work session packet. So you got those in there, and then he just sent me an email a few minutes ago. Put it really quick right here. So he says that the current November projections are $17,699 in revenue, and payments made from the last council visit as of today are $29,858. Those are the two other numbers that he sent me in addition to what you're looking at on the P&L on the second page of the work session.
Any questions? Ms. Knight?
No questions.
Ms. Dean?
No questions.
Mr. Quast?
No questions.
I've got one. It's not necessarily related to his P&L, but I saw that we might have lost, potentially additional revenue again for something related to the automatic flushing systems at the Welcome Center. Doesn't it sound like somebody just turned the power off? Is that what we're seeing?
Yeah. What happened over the weekend? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes.
No, we looked into it, and there's a GFCI in the bathroom, in the women's bathroom, that was faulty, and it was causing all the power that was on that circuit to go out. So we replaced that GFCI today, and it seems to be working fine.
That's understandable in terms of how those work. Okay. Let's live with that. HR software, Jeff?
All right, good evening and welcome to all our visitors. Nice to have you in here with us. So you should get to watch some kind of fun stuff tonight. So this could stand to be death by PowerPoint, so I'm just going to give you a heads up right now, but I'm not going to cover every one of these slides because there's quite a bit on there that we'll go through kind of quickly. And Mayor and Council, you have all of the slides in your packet right there, so I'm going to go through this fairly quickly on that piece. So to preface this, in the city, we have not had what we would call a human resources director or someone sitting specifically in that role for many years. And that at times can create gaps, that we have gaps in not just processes, but certain things that such as onboarding and filing and all the things that, an HR person would oversee. So that gap has been there for a little while, and we know the challenges that we may stand in hiring a full-time person for human resources. And so literally I caught this on the radio coming in one morning about this online HR solution. And this one is pretty unique in some of the things that it offers. And in reality, I cannot find that they have any competitors that do really everything that this company does. So I'll go through, this is their little marketing piece here, and again, I'm not going to go through the entire stuff. So I have been in contact with them a few times. The sales rep I spoke with is Vanessa. She did volunteer to come in here, or to not come in because they're located in California, but she said she would talk on the phone if needed, but I don't think we're necessarily going to need to do that. So the very first page is the pricing setup of this, and you have a comparison piece that goes along with that. I'm going to take 1 second. If you'll take a look at that, I'm going to walk over here and grab my set of slides because I can't see the screen from right there. So I'll be able to go through this. So as you can see on the pricing setup, you do get a discounted amount for a 2-year contract with them. Now I know you go, what are they offering before they price me? But they just hit this right up front because we know that's going to be one of the main questions. So you see that on the regular annual billing, the total due when we would sign with them would be the $58.08 on a 1 year, and then on the year 2 service, we can lock that in at a lower price. So our overall pricing on that ends up being the combination of those two right there. And I do have, this one is not that updated one, it's on there. So the total amount on the 2-year contract would be $86.16.50. That would be our total for 2 years combined setup and all that stuff together, whereas the 1-year contract is what you see down there. Is the $58.08. So my recommendation, again, when I'm not necessarily voting on this tonight, I wanted you to have time to look over it and just present it tonight, would be a 2-year contract with them to provide this HR service. Now, as we're going on the slide, one thing they talk about is compared to other options, if you hired someone to do all this or if you outsource it, obviously you can tell your expenses are much more expensive to have somebody either as a full-time HR person or if you outsource to someone else. You see the difference in all of those. And they throw in something down there at the end of there. It talks about if you have anything, just to have a wrongful termination dispute, the amount of money that can cost you, and some of the things that this helps you with. Next slide, this is where I start really getting into the meat of the whole thing of what they do. What would they do for us? And I did talk to her again today, and I said, from day one, what happens? And she said, one of the first things that you do is you begin to set up your online file storage. So they store files in the cloud for us, so it's an unlimited amount of file storage. And one of the first things we do is send them our policies. Now what they do with our set of policies and whatever documents that we send them is they will begin to see how we compare with federal and state laws. So we would have somebody that would review all of our policies and see where we stand in accordance to all of the federal laws and all the state laws out there that we need to stay in compliance with. One of the other things that they do is coaching and guidance. So you'll see it in here a little bit later that what makes them unique versus some of the other options that are out there for online HR is that we have a consultant, we have a live person, and that person is our person. We don't get just whoever answers the phone that day. We get one person that knows our organization. And that one person is always available to us, of course, like during business hours, for consultations regarding whatever we need to discuss, any type of employment issues, any type of hiring issues, anything that needs to be brought up, that person is available to us. Now, when I say us, it would mean the upper level folks, which would be your department heads, and above that for anybody that needs to pick up the phone and call and do a consultation with them. The piece that they have for employees, and if an employee sends anybody below the rank of a department head, if they need to make contact with them regarding anything, it always has to be in writing. So they have a box per se, a place that whatever an employee wants to address, that has to be done in writing. So they don't have access to pick up the phone and call and speak with someone. That way they always have records of the things that, if anybody has a complaint or anything such as that, it has to go through them in writing. Compliant onboarding and terminations. One of the things that I've noticed is that while I feel like we're mostly compliant in all of our onboarding and all of our hiring, is that we don't have a lot of consistency at times. And this system would create a very consistent process where they take all of our onboarding paperwork and they keep that, and you're able to sign online. So all of the forms that somebody has to sign when we hire them can be done online before they ever get here. Then it's stored in that person's folder from now on, which becomes available in the cloud. So right now, somebody calls and we need to go get something out of someone's folder, out of their file. We have to go in here and scramble through files back in here and find that. Whereas this will give us the ability to access that right online, and all their stuff is always there, stored in the cloud. Obviously, there's limited access to someone's file to who can get in and out of there on their account, so that those become a protected file. But yet, it's always there for your upper staff to be able to go in and pick that up at any point in time. And then they talk about the general and compensation compliance. So they review all of our compliance, and they also keep us up to date. So when a federal law changes that affects one of our policies, they bring that down to us and say, you need to change this. And we handle all that on our side. So it talks about what can it take off of our plate, and it talks about HR research, which I know I know department heads spend quite a bit of time doing some of the research that needs to be done. They take a lot of the onboarding piece off of us so that we have a consistent piece when we're bringing somebody in as a new employee. They do performance management, and again, we have the employee's file there. So anything that happens during that employee's cycle of employment here, it just adds to their file there, and it's always accessible. We don't have paperwork that can end up lost or anything like that, because rather than a piece of paper, I've got something digital now. That sits there and stays for as long as we want that too. They have annual reviews, report cards that we do our performance management. So in our annual evaluations, again, it's all stored online. And anytime we're going to do any type of employee discipline, that's all included inside there. This is, let me go back. On this one, it talks about, which is not, this is a little bit different than what's in your package because she sent me another version today. This talks about some of the errors that are made on the I-9, which is our E-Verify piece that we use when we hire somebody. And she has a piece on there, you might not be able to see it, but she has 5 mistakes on that one little piece right there, and most people can't catch that. And that's the kind of stuff that they would catch at their level when they pass through the E-Verify system and they do the I-9s. So here it's going to talk about she had a completely different one here. I'm going to go to the implementation and support one. I'm going to help you get to that piece. Do that. So this one right here, this slide right here talks about compliance, and you may not have that one in there because I think she's got some of those things a little bit out of order in this piece right here. But on that, you'll see that those are the types of things that we have to worry about compliance-wise. It's a very, very long list, all the way from all the ADA stuff, all the EEOC, and all the types of compliance when we're hiring and during the life cycle of someone that we have to continue on knowing about. And so they cover all this for us, all the different types of compliances. They make sure that we stay inside that and our onboarding and during the employee's cycle with us. There again are some of the different things that they will take a look at. Many of the other laws all about anything from tobacco usage to all of the onboarding pieces, the hiring, the advertisements, all the things. And they do work with municipal governments, by the way. That's one of the questions I asked them in their side. Do you have, because they're available to all private corporations. And they do work with municipalities. And so they have several municipalities that they work with already. So they do have familiarity with government work and how that works. How we do that. So you get over there and it shows that we have the dedicated HR manager, which I've discussed already, that we have one person that becomes our consultant. And this talks about the implementation, the things that they do. Week 1, they do our audit, which we send in anything that HR would need to audit. Is if we hired somebody here, they would come in, they would want to see our policies, they would want to see our procedures and how all those work. And so we just send them those things. They upload it on there. And then our policies become, they become accessible on this platform. So anybody would be able to access, any employees can go in there and look at the policies, and the department heads would have all that accessible online. And so they take that from the beginning in week 1 and push all that together to see where we stand. So they give us a kind of a checkup on all of that. In week 2 and 4, we begin to build all of our other files, and we can customize the entire onboarding process. And all of our file storage, we're able to build that how we would like that to look, and they then create the access levels that we would have people that would be able to get into certain files. This is a piece about the core protective documents. So these are the things such as your anti-harassment types of things, your sexual harassment and your anti-harassment, all the items inside of the HR world that can get people in trouble inside their employment life like that. So they'll go through that. They offer training on each of these, but feel like that with the new training that we've implemented once a month, that we'll begin to cover all these issues that we have to do on an annual basis, and we incorporate all those in that training piece. So you'll see that in that pricing page they have the add-ons with the training piece. I'm not going to recommend that because all the safety pieces and all those are easily enough taken care of in-house right here, and we know those annual pieces. So I'm not going to recommend that we purchase that piece right there. The custom business policies, you can see that, again, what that does is it kind of gives you a snapshot of what our files would look like when somebody logs in there, and that we can load unlimited amount of documents in there. We can load all of our policies, we can load all of our job descriptions, we can load anything that an employee might go, wow, I wish I knew where this was or what this was, and we'll have it centrally located. Department heads will have all the same thing. Again, we create levels of access in there to certain files and all that, but it's all located here, and we have unlimited storage, which is really nice inside of there. I really like this piece right here, which is, you probably all know it as a Docusign. It's a little bit of a different terminology here, but they can actually sign online. So when we change a policy, when we create a new policy, we'll be able to go in here and sign off on that policy. So when something changes and the department heads can send out to each of their employees, it says, we now have a new policy on this. I need you to sign it and acknowledge that you know that it is out there. So they can do that online. Now, while I'm here, I'll take a second to say that we have a program now that is called Power DMS. And that's something that originated from the police department side a long time, and they used that for their accreditation piece. Once we found out that it had more use than we did originally knew, then many of the other departments became part of their Power DMS stuff, so we have storage capacity in Power DMS. But what I asked Chief Lopez to do was to check and see, do we have to maintain that Power DMS, and if we do, to what level? So he checked into that, had some of the people over there say check it. So they do need to keep Power DMS, but when we get it down to what just PD needs rather than the other departments, there's actually a pretty significant savings on that. Remind me, general idea what you came up with. It was $100. What was it?
It was $1,200
just for your department. Right now we're paying about $6,000 a year for it. So yeah, so you're talking $4,000 to $5,000 difference a year savings to take Power DMS to just what they need for their accreditation. They need to keep their piece for their accreditation, but really nobody else, everything else that's in Power DMS that's not theirs can go over to this, and you're still at about the same price point as what we're paying right now. And again, we gain that consultant piece, which is big for us, and the signature piece. So the next one is talking about this HR cabinet in the cloud. I've kind of discussed that, and I'm not trying to kill you here with the PowerPoint piece. You get the idea that I can file as much as I want to. There's a life cycle management piece that rolls through there that takes us from onboarding someone till they're no longer employed with us, all the way through, and we can track that all the way through as we go. That it gives us employee report cards such that along the way, once a month, we can actually go in, if we so choose, we can do once a month, we can do once a quarter or whenever, and we can give an employee report card. And so this way, by the end of their year, when you come up to their annual evaluation, this employee should know exactly where they stand, because they've had several report cards all the way through the year now. So nothing that they see in their evaluation should ever be a surprise. So that we cover that piece as we go through there. There's a corrective action platform. I know if you're following along on that one, you're in a little bit different place right here. This goes to the staff life cycle management, which was staff piece. Employee report cards, and we go to the corrective action platform. Let me go back one. If we do a corrective action with someone, again, you have the ability to consult with your HR consultant, or if there's no need to consult, you don't have to. But whatever we do can then be done inside of the files in here, and it's automatically loaded into that person's file. So again, I can always go back and see anything that happened before with them, not having to hope that the paperwork wasn't left over here or over there in a different spot. It's always loaded up into the same place. Then we go into some of the training stuff, and I'm skipping right past that because I don't recommend any of that. And then we go to the breakdown of their scope of services right here, and I'm going to go through these really quick, and I'll stop. But again, it gives you the coaching and questions that we always have the availability to pick up a phone and speak with someone at a department head level for any type of coaching. Again, I'm not held to what they say. What they have, they can give us their professional opinion. We don't have to choose to go that way. If we so choose, then but we've been given some guidance as per se as we go along with that. Some of the bigger other stuff that I believe that they have is the ability to help us with the policy, because we just haven't had a real deep dive into our existing policies and the things and how compliant we are with federal and state laws. Because they change quite often, and so to have that piece move into those, I think would be very valuable. And then again, all of the things that they offer is the filing and the onboarding, I think, is fantastic. One thing I did ask them about today that I've struggled with in the past when I'm getting ready to onboard someone is background checks. And when I say that, it's the background checks of their employment verification, because we do like to say, did they really work here, and did they really hold this title, and all those things, and that becomes Chief Swint could tell you sometimes. There I scratch my head, like it's impossible to get somebody to tell you at times. Spent countless hours on the phones trying to get personal references and employment references done. So they offer that on an outsourced piece right here, but at a discount for us, to where we could send them an application and the verification that we're allowed to go check this on someone, and they can handle all that for us. Now, that would be an additional charge, but they've brought that down to a reasonable number, because right now a couple of services kind of cornered the market on employment verifications, and they're very expensive. It's one of the last times I paid for one employment verification was like $50, I think, right in that range for one employment verification. So they're cornering the market on that and charging pretty high prices for that, whereas we could send it to them and let them bring all of it back to us, and we know it's verified, rather than it's just trying to find somebody on the phone. Any other questions about it? If you go on back, it talks about the compliance piece that we keep up with on the audit, all the wage and hour reviews. So you're talking about FMLA compliance, FLSA compliance, EEOC, ADA, all the different types of laws that affect us as we have to make certain decisions as department heads and managers. And so it's a really huge piece. Those department heads that I've spoken to about this, I said, would you love to have the ability to just pick up the phone and say, hey, what do you believe is the situation with this? And again, they're not there to make our decisions for us, and we're clear on that we will make our own decisions. But to have that ability to call, and that's all wrapped up inside this price, that consultation piece. But even as big as that is the common storage area and the common processes that we can create from it, is a big help, and that onboarding process is one of the big selling points as well to me. So that's a lot I know to digest for a minute, and that's why I didn't ask for a vote on it tonight, because it's a lot to take in. But any questions?
Ms. Knight, any questions?
So kind of boil down very quickly, what's the goal of using a service like this? I know you went through the whole presentation, but just like off the top of your dome, what's the goal? Why do we need it?
And I'm sorry, you said what's the goal?
Yeah, why do we need it?
Well, the goal is, due to the fact that we don't have a true HR director, is that, the department heads have had to kind of take on this role as a piece. So again, I like the consistency of it, particularly in onboarding. I like the convenience of it. I like the professionalism of it, because what it does, or what it allows us to do, is once we hire somebody, once we've identified that person, we can turn some of this over to them, and they will handle sending them an offer letter, getting an acceptance. They will handle all the paperwork behind that, which is a lot of paperwork, a lot of stuff that we have to sign. It's kind of like getting a mortgage these days. But there is a lot of paperwork signed, so they will send all of the paperwork to the person that we're hiring. They will get everything signed. if something doesn't get returned, if something doesn't get signed, then they know it. It's on a checklist, so they're like, you go down the list, did they sign for their E-Verify? Did they sign for their windfall provision acknowledgments and all the things that need to be filled out? And they are sure that all that gets taken care of, so nothing gets dropped in the process, so that gets that piece is very important to us in the onboarding piece. The common filing area, I like that, which I think Power DMS that we have was, a pretty good help to us as we went through and signed, because it does have the ability as well to sign off on policies and all that, but it does not have the ability to review our policies for us, which I like that situation because, again, you'll find at times you read something and you can tell it has a little bit of age to it because some things have changed since they were written, and that's normal. Federal and state law changes all the time, but it's the ability to have someone who can keep up with it is an important piece of that to me. The other important piece is again, the ability to pick up and talk to a consultant that's on there and say, well, this person did this, they haven't done this before, they have done this before, and they can also help review the file and say, according to your policy, this would be your next step. And that's kind of what the advice that we would get. Now, again, they would just be able to tell us this is how that would work. The other piece to that is that the employees would also feel like they have an avenue, a path. Again, their piece has to be written and has to be sent in a particular format, and so they have that ability to have some type of contact with their questions about a form that needs to be done or anything such as that. So it gives them that ability. And then they always do in talking with her, she's one of the big ones that we do all the time, is if you're getting ready to terminate someone, we do a full file review. We give you a whole risk assessment, and that way you're very well spelled out about where, about what your risk is in letting this person go if you're going to terminate someone. And so all those together are a great package, and I think the value in it is that, you don't have to hire a dedicated HR person or outsource that. Again, your funding piece, once you cancel out Power DMS, is really built right into this, because you're going to end up with the same amount of money, but you're going to get a whole lot more service capacity out of it.
Thank you.
Ms. Dean, any questions?
I just have one. You're saying that the site that you're going to go to ask a question, not ask a question, I mean for the department head to verify whatever, the employee doesn't have that access. Is that correct? They have to physically write and send it in, or can they actually?
No, ma'am. They would have basically a confidential email box, that would go to the HR, our HR specialist. It would go to them.
Okay.
And so, it would be a private message per se that could go to them and say, hey, I want to report this concern. All they're going to do then is turn around and let us know, or let that department head or let the city manager know, you've had this. And they're just going to hand it to us, basically, and let us pursue that. And then if we need any consultation, then they would give us.
And they have the paper trail, the paperwork that it was submitted, and then once it's turned over to you, then however it's dealt with from the city, that's also entered into the system.
Yes, ma'am. That's the big part that I love, is that everything is right there. So if I pull up the file of employee, X right here, then I can go through that and see everything from their hiring paperwork all the way down to, of course, medical files never go in a personnel file, but, and that's, again, one of the things that they'll stay compliant with. Anything it's not supposed to be in a personnel file doesn't go in a personnel file. It's not subject to open records. And so they make sure that the right things are in the file, but whenever I need to access something, I can go into that person's file and go get it. Now, again, I say but again, you build the levels of access to personnel files, because obviously, two personnel at the same level can't access each other's file. Only department heads and city manager would be able to, and whoever we access, whoever we build in there to access, but you cut off access to personnel files outside of only the people who are in there to need to know. If that employee wishes to see their file, then that can be opened up from them. They can view everything that's in their file, which they can do right now. You might walk in there and say, "I want to see my file." You can open up your personnel file, see what's in there. It's online, much easier to access, and not much chance that something ends up not in the file that should be.
And all of this stuff is secure, right?
It is secure. It sits in the cloud. It's all encrypted. Yes, and so, we made sure that, now they do not store medical files. We would still store our own medical files, inside of here, because that's a whole different thing. So that has to be, the compliance with that is anything that's medical is stored separately because it's not subject to open records. Anything they store here would be subject to open records.
Thank you.
Mr. Qua, any questions?
No, but I like this a lot. I mean, we don't have a dedicated HR here, which costs us a lot of money. So this is the kind of tool that provide a lot of service with only less than $5,000 a year. It's wonderful. Keep us compliant,
Yes, sir.
doing things that we shouldn't do. Thank you.
All right. Got a couple minutes. Go over the update on the sidewalk project for Lake Harbin Road and our trail project, and then I see that last one, we got the Welcome Center signs in terms of where that bid process was.
Okay, I have Kyle doing a couple of those. Sure. And then I can grab the other one.
Yeah, good evening. I've just got a few brief updates on some of the ongoing projects here. I apologize, I hadn't had a chance to put any kind of presentation together. I don't have any pictures at the moment, but just a brief overview of some of these for Lake Harbin. They've got one more day of pouring curb and gutter until they're completed with all of that. So they should be completed tomorrow with all curb and gutter. And the sidewalk restoration will begin after Thanksgiving. And following that, they're going to start tying in all of the drainage. There still is a few utility conflicts with Atlanta Gas Light, so they're going to start where they can, where there aren't any conflicts, and hopefully those will be resolved. Our civil engineer, Mark Whitley, is working with AGL to get the utility issues. But everything's moving along where there aren't any kind of conflict. A lot of progress is being made on that project. Any questions on Lake Harbin?
Ms. Knight?
Okay, for
No questions.
for Jester's Creek, the bridge abutments were poured on November 10th, and while those were curing, they did a lot of erosion control measures. They installed riprap, and the bridge is set to go in place this week, is what I'm told, but that's basically tomorrow. I wasn't able to get an update today whether they're putting that in tomorrow or not. But once that's put in and the bridge is cured and everything, the rest of the concrete will be completed following the bridge installation.
And did that complete that project at that point, or was there something else that was missing?
Sorry, say that again, Mayor?
I said, did that complete the project once that bridge is in? Is that pretty much done? Or what else did they have?
There's a little bit more concrete pouring to do after the bridge is installed.
Okay.
So I'll try to get a better update. I'll try to get a better update on that tomorrow. But that's where we stand right now. So the bridge should be in by the end of this week. And yes, sir. Go ahead.
No, I was just asking the council if they had any questions. Ms. Knight?
No questions.
Ms. Dean?
No questions.
Mr. Qua?
No questions, sir.
All right, what about the Welcome Center sign, or the Welcome sign?
Mayor, I just logged into this meeting. So are we talking about the $17,000 on the inspection of the bridges?
No, completely different project. We're down at the end of the section talking about the trail system going over to Skylar. So that was the section there. So now we're just talking about welcome signs and where the progress is on that.
Okay, thank you.
I'll get those. All right. So I'll get those real quick. You should have gotten the opinion letter from the attorney regarding the welcome signs and the fact that the way to handle this is to just finish those at this point. So I talked to Saul yesterday, and there was, originally back before all this happened with the possibility of different screens, there was a design issue where he actually built the vertical piece a little bit smaller than what it was supposed to be, built the monument bigger, vertical piece a little bit smaller. So we spoke about that for a little while today, so that he can begin to finish up. Yesterday, so that he could start doing. So we spoke about whether we wanted to make that vertical piece bigger, and so Kyle went out and got some measurements, but since the monument had been overbuilt, we couldn't necessarily go by the drawing that was there. He got the measurements, and we're going to ask him to go back and redo the existing Morrow vertical piece. So as you see that sign coming from the northbound side, and you're sitting there, that was designed to go down inside the monument, to sit down on that lower section originally. It was made a little bit shorter so that it sits off the top. So now he's going to rebuild that, and it's going to drop down, and so that will become bigger, and then he will finish off that piece. He has received a phased payment on that piece already for half of it, which he's well over halfway done on that, obviously. And as I talked to him today, I said, we need to go ahead and make sure to get the second screen and finish the second monument, because we'll end up having to get both of those just completed, finished, and get that project out of the way. So then he'll move over to the second sign. When we pay him to finish the first one, he'll move over to the second sign, finish that. Then we can make any further decisions on if we want to do any upgrades to the signage on that. So
what about
he is ready.
What about the electrical?
The electrical has not been pulled yet, because we had been waiting on the idea of a possible screen upgrade. Now, at this point in time, we've determined that bigger screen would not require any different power issues over there. So its electric has been just sitting on hold. They gave us an estimate because they had to work with the county to pull through the conduit that's underneath the road to get that power over there. So they've been kind of basically waiting for us to see where we stand with this, that they're on standby and they can go to pull the power across once we give them a call and get that piece done.
Excellent. Any questions from the council on the welcome signs? Ms. Knight?
No questions.
Ms. Dean?
One question, you're retrofitting a sign, so is that gonna change the price of that? Or do you have an additional?
So remember, so when the attorney sent us back the opinion about that, because we were getting up close to, what you're speaking of was getting up close to the sealed bid amount. And she said, we're not there right now. So her opinion was to finish the project exactly as it was drawn out, as with the designer and the builder, finish it. And so once we finish it, then we're able to say, do we want the upgrade, or are we good with this? So we will have a final product. At what point, if it becomes our wish to do something different, then we can do that. But we have to close this project out.
With the smaller screen.
I'm sorry?
Are you saying with the smaller screen?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, with the original. Yeah, this will be, he will finish it to the original design.
Right. So let's be clear, with the smaller screen.
Correct.
Yeah.
Any questions, Mr. Qua?
Yes, sir. So you're saying that they're going to rebuild the monument smaller to fit the current screen size?
No, sir. No, sir. So the way the monument's built, the base and other piece will remain the same.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing he's going to redo is where the sign that goes up and down, it says Morrow. Mm-hmm. That was built not to specs. That was built shorter than originally was designed. So when you look at that monument now, you see that the blocks have been taken out around the bottom of that sign that says Morrow. That block is all gone, because at a point in time, back before I had assumed any of this, they said, well, somebody recognized that's too short, so it's supposed to drop down to here. So he'd removed the blocks and was getting ready to build that sign, and that's when some of the other issues came up. So he was just on a hold right there. So no, the monument's not getting that. When I say the monument, the base of it, the rocks, those will remain the same, except he'll come out on the right side and just finish that off to accommodate if we decide to go to a bigger screen. So that won't really change the look of that much at all. You won't notice any difference. He was waiting to decide if we were going to fill the block back in and leave that Morrow sign there, or if we wanted the full-size one that was originally specified. So after the measurements that Kyle took today, I said, actually, that sign will fit there perfectly. It's going to go from 5 feet. Right now, the Morrow sign is 5 feet tall. It's going to go to 8 feet tall. So it's going to sit down further inside that base. It'll still match the top of, if we were to decide to go to a bigger screen, it'll match the top of that screen. That screen will remain for now until the project is finished.
So in other words, it's still going to fit the bigger screen if we wish to do the other direction?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Tran?
No question.
Okay. Why don't you get a small cup of coffee, and we'll start the council meeting shortly.